Welcome everyone, I'm Dale and this is Cinema Historia. An English boarding school, a frustrated teacher, and a charming new wife. This week we're going back to 1939 for a romantic drama film called Goodbye Mr. Chips, starring Robert Donat and Greer Garson. And this is directed by Sam Wood. So where does our story begin this week? Well, our story begins in the heart of England at Brookfield Public School. A 25-year-old Charles Edward Chipping, played by Robert Donat, boards a train along with several students, heading for Brookfield in 1870. Upon arrival as a Latin teacher, he becomes the target of practical jokes on his first day. To gain respect, he imposes strict discipline in his classroom. Brookfield Public School holds the Cricket Championship Cup against their arch-rival school, Sudbury. Upon their next match, Chipping grounds their best players, losing their cup to the opposition, making him disliked but respected. 20 years pass and he becomes the senior master. When Brookfield's headmaster, John Weatherby, passes away in 1888, Chippings is disappointed not being chosen as the replacement for the housemaster. However, the new German teacher, Max Stoffel, saves him from despair by inviting him to share a summer holiday walking tour to his native Austria. Once abroad, Chipping ventures from their inn alone on a day of mountain climbing. Getting lost in the fog, he hears a female voice, which gives the impression that she may be in some sort of difficulty. His search leads him to Kathy Ellis, played by Greer Garson, a feisty English lady who is on a cycling holiday with a friend. She is in no danger, and having to wait for the fog to lift, they become quite acquainted with one another. Parting but meeting again in Vienna, they attend a local ball where they dance the Blue Danube Waltz. Another parting, and not realizing they are on the same riverboat until redocking, the newly met couple decide to wed and return to England, with Kathy taking residence at the school. So, does a newly charmed couple boost morale at Brookfield? Does tragedy strike and bring Chippings out of his shell? Or does World War I result in governing a new headmaster? Adopted from the 1934 short story Goodbye Mr. Chips, James Hilton based the character of Mr. Chips on W.H. Balgarny, his old master who taught for over 50 years at the Lees Public School in Cambridge. With an 84% rating from Rotten Tomatoes and an 87% rating from its audience, this film received 8 nominations, 3 wins, and won 1 Oscar. This film was up against Gone with the Wind in 7 categories, and Robert Donat won for Best Actor, beating Laurence Olivier, Clark Gable, and James Stewart. In December of 1939, Variety stated, "A charming, sophisticated account of the life of a school teacher. The character he etches creates a bloodstream for the picture that keeps it intensely alive." And that he does. He said his character really came alive when he put on the mustache. And I know what he means. And the trivia question this week: did a short performance in this film receive an Oscar nomination? Did a short performance in this film receive an Oscar nomination? So, a little more history and the answer to our trivia question coming up next. Now, since our film is based at a school in the 1800s, this week we're going to talk about a former school that I used in my thumbnail which is Victoria College of Cobourg, Ontario, Canada. So, located upon a rise of land near the northeast edge of the town of Cobourg, Ontario, Victoria College is one of Cobourg's most prominent and recognizable buildings. The history of the building dates back to 1832 when construction first began with money collected from the Upper Canada constituents of the Methodist Church. The cost of erecting the building was estimated at between $25,000 and $30,000, so when it reached $40,000, construction was put on hold. Funds were eventually raised and the building officially opened in 1836 with Reverend Egerton Ryerson serving as the school's first president. It became Victoria College in 1841 when it received royal charter from Queen Victoria. With this distinction, Victoria College became the second institution in Upper Canada to receive degree-granting powers. Following a split in the Methodist Church, Victoria College merged with Albert College in 1884 to form Victoria University. 6 years later, Victoria University declared federation, with the University of Toronto becoming a permanent resident there in 1892. In 1897, the vacant building was sold to the Government of Ontario, and in 1900 it became operations as the Cobourg Insane Asylum. This was to alleviate overcrowding at the 7 other provincial asylums. World War I resulted in the transformation of the building to the Cobourg Military Convalescent Hospital. A number of wounded soldiers were treated at the site until 1920, when it became the Ontario Hospital, Darcy Place. The building maintained this use until 1970 and is now operating as a retirement living center. Yes, very nice building too if you drive by. Just amazing looking. And what was it like going to school back then? Well, here's some differences going back to school in the 1800s. In some areas, schools were once taught in a single room. There was no transportation to get to school. The school days were much shorter then, yes, usually between 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., depending on their families needing help to harvest crops. For many students, education ended with the 8th grade, and there were no fancy school supplies. Now, there were some that were supplied, and I have 3 on my shelf, which are inkwells. Yes, your pen kind of looked like a feather, and you would dip it in the ink to do your writing. It was a little messy, but it worked. These are stamped from London. These inkwells are from the late 18th century. The tall one would have been used by a teacher, and the small ones by students. Inkwells gradually fell out of use in the early 20th century with the invention of the reservoir fountain pen. Pretty interesting. And the answer to our trivia question this week, did a short performance in this film receive an Oscar nomination? Yes, and it's from one of my favorite actresses of the 1940s, Greer Garson. Yes, Greer Garson's performance runs a little under 25 minutes, yet she received an Oscar nomination in the Best Actress category, one of the shortest performances to have been so nominated. And justly so, she really does light up the screen. I want to thank all my viewers and subscribers for tuning back in. And if you're new, could you please hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope to see you back next week.
I invite you all to join me in a toast to Chips of Brookfield. Chips of Brookfield. School, 3 cheers for Chips. Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray! Hip hip. Hooray!